All right, good everybody. Good everybody. It's been a long day, and we're just getting this started. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Education of a Weaponized Man podcast. Greg LaBeouf here with you. We've got Dustin Dodory, Brad Vanderlight here with me as usual. And listen, tonight we're gonna, I call it like a little bit of a quiz, play a little game tonight. And it's called the Survivable Value. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to read out either a question or I'm going to read out a statement. And I want you guys to find the survivable value, right? And so either way you're looking at, you can choose danger or you can choose safety. And we want to find safety, meaning we want to always be able to recognize the survivable value within any given situation. And so we're just going to kind of rattle off a few things here. And I thought it'd be a really fun way to kind of let people have a bit of a different perspective on, again, either danger or survivable value. That is a term that we use quite often, find the survivable value. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to break it down. Should be fun. Anyone that's listening or watching can kind of play along at home and see what your answers might be or which one you would choose. And it'll be interesting for everybody. So we're going to jump right into this finding the survivable value, back in a few seconds after intro. Every day I hear more stories of good people being brutally assaulted and murdered, who is free to walk the streets in the same city where I live, work, and where I am raising my two daughters. Well, I'm tired of screaming at the TV, and enough is enough. Throughout history, there have always been men willing to answer the call to the threats against our way of life. Well, today, that threat outside of our children's schools. My new mission is to create and train a group of men that believe in the right to life and value the freedom a man has to protect his life, his family. All right, okay, so tonight is all about finding the survivable value. So like I said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read out, it'll either be in the form of a question or a statement, and then I just want you guys to kind of navigate us through, and maybe you agree with my statement, maybe you don't, maybe you are completely diametrically opposed to the statement. Some might be true, false, but I want you to share with everybody where you guys would find the survivable value. Okay, makes sense? So let's just start off with a couple easy ones here, right? The first one I have written down. No, this is in no particular order, but listen, training against one person, whether in martial arts, combat sports, but training against one person is as good as it's ever going to get, or it's all you ever need to do.
Oh. I feel like we need the America's Got Talent, where you got a big X.
Yeah.
We're not going to get anything
here's
wrong.
The thing. What's interesting, and it should apply for most of the statements or questions that I have, is I believe that on one side there's danger and on the other side there's survivable value. So I'm using those as the two bookends. And then, of course, it's a sliding scale somewhere in the middle. So listen, a lot of people in most of their training, they train against one person, right? You learn to fight, whatever it is. So listen, that's got to be as good as it gets, right? Because, I mean, what I can do against one person, I would just simply do that against two people. So is that choosing danger, or is, how do I find the survivable value in that?
Yeah, it's far less realistic. I mean, you asked the question, and me and Brad's initial answers were both to just laugh, which kind of tells you how false we think that statement is. And I think it applies to anything in life. I mean, God, if people can't see it in violence, surely they can see it in other things. But anyway, the point I'm making is the harder you make something, well, it's going to be two things. The harder you make it in training, then the easier it will be in real life. But this goes far beyond that, because training against multiple opponents is not just to make surviving violence easier. It's because that's far more likely what you're going to face in violence. And it's certainly not as simple as taking the strategies, tactics, and tools against one person and then simply just applying it to multiple opponents. And that's one of the biggest things that we always see when we look at other martial arts videos, things like that, and they say, oh yeah, we're going to do I think they call it the Shark Tank drill sometimes. Like, oh yeah, look at this, 4 guys, 5 guys. But then you watch it and you literally see what we just said. The guy basically goes against one guy and everyone else stands around and kind of watches. Maybe they're kind of step tapping a little bit to make it look like they're doing something. But really it ends up just being 5 one-on-one, fights or demonstrations or whatever you want to call it. But they're not truly doing any kind of mass attack drills.
Okay. Brad?
You know what? My head immediately goes to pressure, right? When we talk a lot during the weaponization process, we talk about pressure. Pressure is what gets you killed. And if you can't handle the pressure, you know, you're highly likelihood of failure. So when you think about that and you start attaching that and expanding that out to 2, 3, 4 people, well, the pressure is just simply intensified, and it's different, right? Now, when I'm thinking about this and I'm in my head, this is not just, I'm not just talking about this on a physical plane, right? But you have the intent. Now you have not just one person in front of you or whatever that you're dealing with and interacting with, but now you have 2, 3, 4 people all yelling, screaming, and like whatever that happens to be. That is a different animal than one person being like, ah, fuck you, you piece of shit, whatever it is. But when you have that pressure with 3, 4 multiple opponents, and then you add the physical into it, like it's drastically different. So what to kind of bring that back to the question is like, well, what you do on one, you could do to many, not really accurate. But when it's flipped, it's accurate, which we know and we talk about all the time. What you do to many can apply to one, right? So for me, I think it's just that pressure is something that is undeniable, because even if they are using such little pressure, well, there's simply just 4 of them. So that makes it so much higher than what it seems to be if it was just one, right? I don't know if that's was on something specific, but
No, I get it. Okay, so I think I'm just going to end up paraphrasing parts of each of what both you guys are saying, but I think just for simplicity, I would say that, I mean, obviously, if you're training everything against one person, or that is the predominant, focus of your training, where you're just learning to fight, so you're learning the punches and kicks and all that stuff, and you're dealing with mostly one person. And you guys said this, so I'm just kind of cleaning it up a bit. The reality is that the strategies, tactics that you use for a single person attack do not translate, and this is what you guys said. They don't directly translate over to mass attack against when you have 2 or more and they're very committed to the attack. And you talked about the pressure is different. Dustin talked about how it is far more realistic to understand that you're going to face more than one person in a typical street situation, because there are no fucking rules. And these guys, violent predatory criminals, they don't want to fucking lose. They're not looking for a fucking fight. They're looking to destroy. They're looking to gain something, whatever that happens to be, whatever their objective happens to be. So the reality is that when you're training for multiple opponents, your strategies and tactics, they change. Even something as simple as like understanding like Trojan horse and flashbang strategies, which again, we don't have time within the concept of the scope of this podcast to delve into each of those things. But those are 2 radically different strategies that you would see used. They go by different names sometimes, but you would see those used in warfare all of the time. And yet, combat sports, traditional martial arts, they teach neither of those 2 strategies. But those 2 strategies are absolutely essential when it comes to multiple opponents. So again, this is something we say, all the time. From the very first day somebody starts with us, the survivable value lies in assuming that you are going to be outgunned and outmanned, right? So if that's the survivable value, it's not what do I do when my training has made me the bigger, stronger, better, faster, tougher, more skilled individual. The question is the standard, right? So you always have to set the standard that you're training for is when I'm outgunned, outmanned by bigger, stronger, better armed people with skill who are absolutely 100% bent on my destruction. That's the standard. That is the question that you have to find the solution for. So if we come back to this, again, as we've all been saying, you want to equate what you are doing to mass attack, 2 or more all the time, because those strategies, tactics, and tools still work even if it is one-on-one. Right, and like you guys said, that door doesn't swing the other way. Okay, sometimes, right, some of the skill sets absolutely can work, but a great many of them do not, because, like you guys talked about and what Brad mentioned, the pressure. Okay, so I would definitely agree that the survivable value lies in equating what you're doing to multiple opponents. Yes, we're all in agreement on that one.
yeah.
Fantastic. Let's go to the next one. Okay. This is kind of a true or false statement, and you guys can kind of, I guess, tell us where you believe the survivable value lies. But listen, you can either carry a tool/tools with you, or you can simply just roll with what God gave you. Meaning natural tools, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So, false is my answer to that question.
Okay.
You can't you can roll with what God gave you, but when you think about, again, bringing it back to the context of the podcast, is like, where's the survivable value in carrying a tool with you to defend your life in against violent criminal assault? Is, yeah, you want, like, this is, the stakes are at their absolute highest. Why would you not, again, assume that everybody is armed right from the get-go, right? When you start weaponizing, just like you assume that you're always going to be outgunned and outmanned, you're also going to be out-equipped. Assume that, so that you also put that into your process of weaponizing, that you're going to need tools to aid in your survival, right? Flashlights, tac pens, edged weapons. That could also be a tool for med tech and stuff like that, because you may need that as well. And if you don't bring it, it doesn't come, right? You don't bring it to the fight, so to speak, question marks. It's you don't have access to it, right? So
Okay.
Yeah, I 100% agree with everything Brad said, for sure. So rather than repeat it, I think the only thing I'd kind of add, or say in a different way, is just to use an expression that we always do use, and that's just, you have to stack the deck in your favor. We're talking about being outgunned, outmanned, out-equipped, all of that stuff, outmanned. It's like, well, if you're going to be weaker, you're not as skilled, you're not as talented, you're not all these things. Well, why would you not want to have something to at least increase your odds, potentially, to a higher level than what they have, whatever it is? But it's like, to me, it's just a no-brainer. It's like, if someone's going to hand you an advantage, why would you ever say no to that in pretty much any situation? If I'm running a race to save my life, I'll take the head start. It's just pretty simple.
Okay. So again, I agree with what you guys are saying. I would say it in a slightly different way, but carrying tools, or just rolling with what God gave you, meaning, again, a lot of people have this perception, again, that, they're big enough, strong enough, tough enough, fast enough, whatever it is, or that, the extreme bad shit never happens to people like them. This could be also people being like, you can't carry anything with you because the second you do, you're going to get fucking charged anyhow, all this type of stuff. The reality is, like Brad talked about, the fact that survivable value lies in assuming that people are always armed. With that, Dustin, you mentioned this, and Brad, you alluded to this too, obviously. But the other side of it is the survivable value lies in assuming that they are way bigger, way fucking stronger, way tougher, way better, way skilled, way more motivated, all this type of shit. So it doesn't matter whether they're armed or not. I mean, the most dangerous weapon a criminal has is his mindset, right? Because they think fucking evil. So they're always armed. They're always armed. They're always trying to manipulate. They're always trying to catch you on the blind side. Dustin, you mentioned this, and I understand the reference in which you said it, but you talked about the fact that, we carry tools because we want to try to stack the deck in our favor. And that's 100% true, but we carry tools because the deck is already stacked against us, is where I would start. That's the survivable value of assuming they're already armed. I mean, bad guys get to make, you got to think about this. Before you ever come across a violent individual, they have made multiple decisions before they ever went looking for their target/victim. Right? The real serious motherfuckers, they are deciding before they ever step out their front door what time of day that they're going to go looking for trouble. The time, the location, the duration, the intensity, the numbers that they're going to roll with, the tools that they're going to fucking bring. All of this shit has been decided beforehand, right? They're picking all of this stuff. So I mean, you every time you walk into a fucking casino, you got to understand that the casino, it's all fucking rigged. Otherwise, casinos wouldn't be in business. Do you know what I mean? So the reality is that anytime that violence finds you, these fuckers aren't looking for, they're not looking to test their skill sets. They're looking to fucking destroy people. So the survivable value lies in understanding that the deck is already fucking skewed against you. So when we talk about carrying tools, like even we're going to get into some of this later, but like you bring your med tech stuff with you, all that type of stuff. All these things are just allowing us, to try to equalize some shit. You know what I mean? To try to get some of that deck reversed back over to us. You know what I mean? Again, a concept that we call relative superiority. All things being relative in this moment, we gain superiority. But overall, if you step back, they have superiority. They have size, strength, time, location, duration, spread. They have all this other shit. But we can gain relative superiority in that moment. So our mindset, and I believe the mindset that, lends itself to survivable value, is that protectors are always carrying tools, right? And that's a vast extension of tools, not just, and again, we say tools rather than weapons because they're tools. Again, med tech stuff to knives to whatever it happens to be, they're tools, right? They have multiple functions outside of just self-defense, but of course, that is also one of their functions. So I would agree with you guys on that one, that the survivable value lies in kind of what we're talking about. So if we jump to the next one, lift heavy weights, maybe even hit a few rounds of steroids. That way nobody will ever fuck with you.
That's an awesome strategy.
Okay, but here's the thing. Before you guys answer this, because as much as you guys laugh, is that a completely out to lunch philosophy?
No, because it's such a relative statement. So to us, it's funny just because of all the years we've spent studying violence. So yeah, to somebody else, no, it would be 100% valid, potential plan, I guess you would say. To someone who just doesn't understand violence, who's never thought about violence, that kind of thing. Like, yeah, they might just think, well, yeah, if you're big and strong and scary looking, people won't mess with you. If you're strong, you're automatically tough. If you're tough, you automatically know how to fight, in quotation marks. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's obviously very, very common. For us, it's different because of our background and our knowledge and just all the time we've put into studying it.
I think it's so common that it is even a prerequisite for some job positions.
Yeah,
that we know of. You know what I mean? But I remember talking to this one guy. He was a monster of a person when I was going to university, and he hated going out. He hated it because he's like, everybody wants to fight me, and because I just happen to be the tallest, biggest guy around, and so that theory of like, I'm just going to get big and strong and do steroids and maybe throw a face tattoo in there as well and look scary. It's not a survival plan. It's a denial mechanism, right? In my opinion, because it's not accurate, because people still want to take out the big guy. Like, gangbangers have no problem taking 15, 20 guys to be like, oh yeah, let's take down this Goliath,
Well, especially if they understand that it's an illusion. If they understand that the big, strong-looking guy is not necessarily a threat to them, they don't care. It's irrelevant to them.
See, let me throw this out there too, because again, this one is less funny than what we'd like it to be, because most people, if you went into any room and you ask people who they think the toughest guy in the room is, most people just look around and just figure out who's got the biggest biceps or the biggest chest or who's bench pressing the most. And society often equates size and strength to fighting prowess, right? Now, we all know that that's not true and stuff like that. So, but the other side is not just the fact that it's all a fucking illusion, because obviously if you're big and you're strong and you have some training and stuff like that, size and strength matters. And people that tell you that size and strength doesn't matter in a combat situation are full of shit, and they've never been in a combat situation. They've never been in a real world fight. But just size and strength in and of itself is not enough. Our saying nowadays is there's no such thing as tough anymore. There's trained and there's untrained. And that really is the dividing line. So absolutely, like for me, the survivable value lies in the truth being that you want to be in good shape. You want to maximize your strength. You want to maximize your flexibility. You want to maximize, and I don't mean for high kicks. I mean, because if you have looser muscles and joints and things, not loose joints, but you get me. If your body's just more limber, you're more resistant to injury. So overall, is health, strength, all that stuff important to defending yourself? Yeah, it absolutely plays a role. But that is again the most important part. The survivable value again lies in not equating that your bench press or the size of your biceps or whatever it is. That has nothing to do with fighting skill set. You have to gain that skill set, right? So that survivable value again lies in educating, mentally, physically, physiologically, like get the skill sets, get the training, get the knowledge. Because again, I'll just circle back to it. There's no such thing as tough anymore. There's trained and there's untrained. Now, here's the interesting thing, right? Tough still kind of does exist. There are just some tough people out there. And why we say that it doesn't anymore is because those types of situations, they don't even pop up on our radar. I mean, tough might be like, you go to the bar and some other guy is posturing and you're posturing and you guys go outside and you guys, throw a few shots and, but that's not violence. That's a whole different classification of antisocial aggression shit that we're not even worried about. So in the realm of actually going into professional protectors, modern day weaponized men, the standard that we are training for, which I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, the standard has to be outgunned, outmanned by serious motherfucking individuals who are willing to take you and your family out. Right? They're better equipped, they're better armed, they're better trained. It's like, the only solution you have is unconventional warfare. You need the training for that. It's a different mindset, different strategy, different tactics. But at the end of the day, you want to be, conditioning helps. I mean, if I'm 300 pounds overweight, that's not going to do, if I have zero fucking strength, if you can't, run up a set of stairs, if you can't pick up, a decent amount of weight and, carry it somewhere or whatever, like it's going to hamper you for sure. So I think for me, the survivable value isn't just dismissing size and strength completely. But what we're all laughing at and what we all, do is let's get rid of, you got to completely annihilate the myth and the perception, the false perception that the size of your biceps or how much you can bench press is equivalent to fighting prowess, because it just has nothing to fucking do with that shit. That's the part that has to be destroyed. But outside of that, absolutely, you want to be in good shape, as good as you can be. And that's just for your whole life, because again, at what age do you guys plan on retiring from the responsibility of protecting yourself and your family? I don't want to age out. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to retire, and I definitely don't want to age out. We can adapt our strategies, tactics, and tools. I know absolute fucking killers that are in their 70s, moving on to their 80s. And I mean, you'd be in for a very fucking big surprise if you thought, look at this old fucker, right? And one of the things they've done is they've maintained their health, in a very powerful way up into the late stages of their life. And then they're blessed, obviously, without having, because shit can happen to any one of us. But anyways, so for me, that's the specifics I'd want, is destroy the myth of the size equated to fighting prowess, and then kind of everything else we talked about. So do you guys agree with that, or do you have anything else you want to add to that one?
No.
I think very quickly, at the end of the day, strength, it's an attribute, just like any other attribute.
Beautiful.
So yeah, you need it. Yeah, it's great. If you have lots of it, even better, but it's just an attribute.
Yeah, one of many. Learn to use it in the right place, the right time. Perfect. Okay, next we're going to go in, and again, choosing one side, one perspective leads more to danger. The other leads more to the survivable value. We are tonight trying to find the survivable value in these statements. Some of them awful funny, but anyways, listen. Perfect the gift of gab. That way you can talk yourself out of any situation. I mean, at the end of the day, a man that can sell ice to an Eskimo, what does he have to worry about?
I think it just goes back to the root of everything that we're saying. Like, you're talking, like, what are we talking about here when we bring it back to the realistic, accepting reality that there's people with violent intent toward you? They don't give a fuck how well you talk. If their mind is hell bent on your destruction and they would just want to destroy yourself and your family, talk all day long. It's not going to save your ass, because again, like you made the comments, like they've already decided all that. They had their list, their checklist has already been filled out when they picked their target. right? If it just happens to be salesman Sam, like he's in one because he ain't gonna survive that, you know. So it's like people don't care. Like it's not. It's no different. Like, do you want to be able to have a communication element? Yes, right. That is a tool. That is part of the toolbox. But if that's all you're relying on, that's no different than just size, in my opinion. Again, it's just an attribute, but it's not something that is going to be able to. You're never going to be able to rely on that solely to defend yourself, right? Because when people have violent intent towards you, they're not even going to hear what you're saying. You may not. What if you not even? What if you can't even get a word out? What good is it? It's not. So no survival value in simply just having communication or the gift of gab, so to speak.
Okay, Dustin.
Yep, I agree. Brad pretty much took the words out of my mouth. It's a tool in the toolbox.
Now that's communication.
Yeah, buddy.
That's a gift of
Yeah,
gab right there.
exactly. You can't.
Stole your shit.
You know,
So there is
it's really
use.
it's really no different than size. Like Brad said, it's size is an attribute. You know, the gift of gab. Like whether it's the gift of gab, you're just a good talker, a smooth talker, whatever, or whether you have tactical communication. Even if you have the best tactical communication out there, if that's all you have, you're taking on a lot of risk. Like, is there situations where you can de-escalate, deter because of tactical communication? 100% there is, right? Violence is obviously a sliding scale. And so there's situations where that will totally work. But again, if that's the only tool you have in your toolbox, you're just taking on a ton of risk, in my opinion.
Okay. I think that what you guys said is obviously part of what my answer would be, and I'm just going to highlight it and paraphrase it real quick. But both you guys highlighted the fact that communication in and of itself is not a bad thing, just if it's the only thing that you have and if that's what you're completely dependent on, kind of like the statement was implying, that, listen, I got the gift of gab, I can talk my way out of anything, which, again, these are things that I hear people say this shit all the time. Like, I mean, all of this list of things that I come up with where either choose danger or find the survivable value, all of these things are things that are said to me by potential clients or people that I meet over the years. I mean, not once or twice. I'm talking hundreds, if not thousands of times. I've met men that say this shit, right? This one, the one of like, fuck, I'm a good talker, I talk my way out of anything, often goes along with, and I mind my own business, so like I don't have to worry about any of that shit because nobody fucking bothers me because I keep my head down and mind my business. Another fucking, danger statement, right? If that's what you truly believe and that's your actions, remember, your actions are reflections of your beliefs, right? Not your thoughts. You can think one thing, but it's what you believe that determines what you do. So when these people have these thoughts, these beliefs, this impacts their actions. So I would say this, just because you guys have already kind of covered it. If you're going to you got the gift of gab, that doesn't mean that you've done that. Again, you've weaponized it. Talking to people in almost any other type of situation in life, I don't care if it's in business, in relationships, or wherever the fuck it is. You can be, I don't care if you're fucking Lance fucking Romance and you've fucking, wooed a million ladies. I don't give a fuck. Closed the thousands of deals. I don't give a shit. You either have trained it or you haven't trained it. You're trained and restrained, or you're untrained and unrestrained, meaning you have to learn tactical communication. Communicating with individuals that are de-evolving, that are mutating, that are escalating to what we call that point of no return, to where they go into full fucking crisis mode, where the blood drains out of the forebrain and they no longer have the ability to think, rationalize, problem solve. They're fucking experiencing auditory exclusion. All of these different powerful physiological, sympathetic nervous system things that are happening the second that your survival system activates. And you got to remember, yes, SNS activation happens even in fucking bad guys. It's human fucking physiology. Good or bad makes no fucking difference. Okay, so you have to train and develop tactical communication skills. Now, if you work real good tactical communication skills, it is not just about tactical de-escalation. De-escalation is only one aspect of your communication skills. So here's some more food for thought. How do you fucking ever utilize tactical behavioral redirects? Well, you often use communication. How do you create stalls or fucking things like that? And when a lot of times, if you understand and you can look at somebody in a situation and recognize where they are at in terms of escalation, where they are at in terms of their physiological arousal part? Like, are they full auditory exclusion? Are they experiencing tunnel vision? Has the shape of their eyes started to change yet? You know what I mean? What is their speech patterns like? Like, when you can fucking figure out where these people are at, you might already go, fucking listen, I have less than a 5% chance of verbally de-escalating this motherfucker. So why would you start doing tactics like pacing the aggressor and all this type of shit where you're going, those are attempts to verbally de-escalate. But he's not in that fucking physiological state to be verbally de-escalated. But you can create behavioral redirects, you can create mental stalls and distractions. All this shit allows you to gain fucking access to, like, let's say, first strategy like a Trojan fucking horse. So the Trojan horse isn't just nonviolent presentations and fighting off at geometric angles and managing distance to manage damage. Fucking communication, behavioral redirects, things like that are going to be a massive fucking part of that strategy. So for me, the survivable value is, yes, absolutely. If you think that the gift of gab is all you fucking need, well, you're about as smart as a fucking rock I stubbed my toe on earlier today. Right? It's just not, it's nothing. It's not going to be there for you. But if you just think also that tactical communication is all about and solely focused on verbal de-escalation skills, then you are also wrong in that thinking. Right? Each of these things that we talk about, from tactical communication to, combat physiology these are deep areas of fucking study. And the more that you study these things, the more you refine and become surgical with these things. So there is a lot more to communicating and using, pontificating and, having verbal discourse. There is a lot more to it than just having the gift of gab. So again, hopefully I can show people or get people to understand that the survivable value is not just left or right. The ability to talk or not talk. It's not, I'm a good talker, I don't need to talk. It's much more intricate and much deeper than that. And again, the more that you invest in that, the safer that you're going to be, the more survivable value you're going to find. So that would be my 2 cents. Anything on that? Yeah, Brad.
Yeah, just real quick, I want to make a connection because you said something that really resonated with me, and it kind of drew me down this little bit of a path of having a communication plan, right? But let's just say that it is that gift to gab. You have that gift to gab, and that's something maybe you've had altercations before, and you talked your way out of it, and great, like you got home safely, and it's nothing. Like, okay, that's good. But when you are communicating in a moment where you're fucking scared out of your mind because this guy's going to assault you, if that is all you have for your safety is just the gift of gab, and how well can you, even if it's tactical communication, how well can you execute on your gift of gab or your communication plan if that is all you have? So for me, it just made me think, it's like, well, if I was in a situation, that's all I had, and I see that this is deteriorating, and now I have fucking nothing, I'm like, I'm holding on to my gift of gab. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it's like, I don't have anything else. So I can't, like, where are you drawing that to? Where are you taking that? Like, how are you implementing something when you're like, oh, I don't have anything else? Like, if this goes sideways, if this doesn't work, I have no backup, right? So I don't know. It's just
I think it's a good point. I think it's an interesting point that comes out because this last statement was talking about communication, and I think you're right, because we call it often referred to as running the ladder or whole person integrated development. And again, this is one of the things that makes what we do very, very powerful, because you have to have what's called a kill chain. And a kill chain is no matter what one strategy you have. So remember, within every strategy, think like it's a box. You open that box up, and there's tactics within that, and there's tools. The tactics, and the tools allow you to accomplish the strategic goal. But no matter how powerful any one strategy is, if you truly go back to the standard, and what's the standard again? That we believe that what we will be facing is bigger, stronger, outgunned, outmanned, better equipped, 100% fully fucking motivated individuals ready, willing, and able to fucking kill and murder you and your family with no hesitation. Okay, that's the standard. That means that's the problem we have to solve. So if you truly believe that that is the problem, that is your standard, then you understand the power of a kill chain, meaning that any one strategy is insufficient. It is the combination of strategies. If I teach you strategy number 2 and you're like, fuck, the most power, that's so fucking awesome. Let's say it's communication. But the second that I have and teach you, and you now have strategy 1 and 3, strategy 1 is going to synergize strategy 2, and strategy 2, 1 and 2 are going to synergize 3. So you're putting together a sequencing. So that way, if and when one thing fails or doesn't, quite do what you had hoped it would do, you have redundancies, right? And so, like you say, communication, there's going to be a different level of pressure if all you have is tactical communication, whether that is your verbal de-escalation skills or whether it's your behavioral redirects or any of the other aspects of tactical communication. But when it is combined with the strategies, tactics, and tools of the physical, the psychological, the physiological, all of the other different stuff, understanding your legal rights, all these things, each of those things are infinitely more fucking powerful. And to kind of cue to your point, you have a lot more faith. Like, you know how much more willing I am to use my tactical communication? I don't mean I will use it longer than it's necessary, or I will use it longer than it is effective. I'm saying I have way more confidence to use it because it has multiple redundancies within my training of physical, mental, and emotional skill sets, knowledge, so that I can better assess, is this working? Should I abandon it? Should I move to the next one? But also, that gives you different insights, and often you find yourself making it fucking work where others have failed because you have just more tools in the toolbox, right? So you just, so it was a good place to put that comment in.
Yeah, and it's like you sometimes when you're like, this strategy is not effective right now.
Mm-hmm.
But again, if that's the only thing you have, you can't pivot.
Yeah.
It makes me thinking that you're at the mercy then.
Well, yeah, of course. You know what I mean? But that in and of itself is the whole thing. Where's the survivable value? Well, not having one strategy.
Yeah.
You don't want to be a one-trick pony. But that's why often, what do you do? I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Oh, so you're a one-trick pony. Oh, but it covers everything. No, it doesn't. Nothing covers everything. You know what I mean? It's like there is nothing that covers everything, which is why you always have to be doing a lot of different things. Anyway, I don't want to get into because that's a whole conversation of eclectic versus synergistic, and that's a whole different can of worms. So, and I think we've got this one. So let's move to the next one. Okay, if there is even the slightest fucking chance that someone is looking at you funny, you should fucking destroy them. Again, yeah, I get everyone. You guys laugh and smirk. Yeah, this is genuine to what people think. How many times people walk around and go, "So fuck guy, look at me like that, I'd fuck him up." Like everyone just thinks like, that's what it happens.
I guess it's funny because obviously that's not going to work, but like I wouldn't even believe that. Like someone says that to me, and I'm like, no, you wouldn't. Like, do you seriously?
But here's the thing: whether they physically would or not, the danger lies in the fact that that's what they think.
Sure.
That's what they believe, and so they walk around, and even if some guy looked at them and they did nothing, they denial, they discount, they don't remember, they don't see it that way. Well, no, that's not that. But if somebody really looked at me, then I'd do this or I'd do that.
Sure.
I mean, these are, all of these things that we're talking about. This is the power of denial. This people rationalize, justify, minimize things, make excuses, or flat out refuse shit to make this stuff believable to them. So what is the survivable value in this then? If it's not just the second fucking someone's looking at you, fuck him up, right? Then where does the survivable value lie when you have somebody that you believe is potentially a threat to you? They're eyeballing you. There's that intention where you're like, you're not sure, but like could be. Where's the survivable value in those situations?
Well, it's to assume that you're right. Do you know what I mean? Like if you feel like someone's looking at you in a strange way, you have to trust that intuition. You have to trust that sense. And then you have to act in accordance with your training. I hope you have some.
So if you walk over there and knock the fucking shit out of them?
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, I guess,
Yeah, but
well, I guess
if
it
you
depends
said I
what you're
should trust my
training in.
intuition and I believe that he's looking at me funny, then I'm going to go over there and fucking put a
No,
ball
no,
across the side of his
no, no,
head, pull my knife out, give him a fucking haircut. You know what I mean?
no, no,
Like,
no. All I'm saying is you trust your intuition or trust your sense in that it could be something dangerous, and you need to address that, not by going over there and doing all of those things.
so what should they
Absolutely not.
do? I
Could
think, see,
be.
what I will do, let's stop this real quick. Let's back up. There's got to be one thing that's put in front of all of this. There's the first thing that has to fucking be said in this conversation. Where does the survivable value lie? I'm just gonna, because I want people that are listening to this to really fucking hear this. Okay? If there's even a slight chance that someone is looking at you funny, you should go over there and fucking destroy them. That's obviously an insane thing to walk around thinking or believing, right? Because a lot of people would. They'd also be like, yeah, you can't give these guys half a chance. You got to get them before they get you and stuff. And there is some truth to that type of thinking or mindset. But there's one thing that has to be put. The survivable value has to lie where? I'm just going to throw it out there because we're already cutting time down here. Here's the thing that everybody has to understand. Learn how to fucking read the sequencing of violence. That's what you have to have. Your intuition and everything, yes, your intuition's going to activate. Remember, you're going to see a threat, you're going to hear a threat, or you're going to fucking feel a threat. And when you feel a threat, you might not have seen shit or heard anything yet. You just feel something. The fucking hairs in the back of your neck stand up. And that gets you fucking, that pings, right? When you train, when you weaponize, you build the reticular activator part of your brain. I mean, that's the filter. That you say, listen, what information, we're pulling in so much fucking information through our sensory faculties, millions of pieces of information, fucking every fucking second or few minutes, it's just, we're being bombarded. But that part of your brain, you decide what gets sensory gated and what is brought to your conscious attention, right? Your conscious awareness. When you weaponize, when you study violence and you learn and study the pin index, right? The body language, the behavioral patterns, the communication patterns that show you where people are at on an aggression continuum, right? You build this fucking filter. Then all of a sudden you're out there and you feel, you intuit something. Or you see it or you hear it. And then all of a sudden, ping, your fucking radar is on and you start looking around. What's causing this shit? Well, the first thing you want to have is you want to have the fucking skill sets, the knowledge to actually read the intent. True. Like, can you read intent to harm in others? My analogy for this is always the fucking same. It's like taking somebody who has all of the attributes to drive a car, but understands none of the fucking road signs. They understand none of the fucking, the sequencing or the signage of driving. They're going to cause an accident. Either they're going to get themselves killed or they're going to kill somebody else. Most likely they'll kill somebody else. Because they don't know what a fucking green light means, what a yellow line or a white dot. They just don't fucking understand anything. And shit is happening fucking fast. So in violence, this is what has to happen instantaneously. First fucking thing, no fucking excuses. If you don't study and understand how to read intent to harm in other human beings, you are choosing fucking danger. I don't care, because this is like right now some idiot would chime in and go, I've been driving a car for fucking 10 years, 20 years, never had an accident. I don't know what a fucking green light means or a red light. Say, well, what you probably also don't recognize is how many people you've destroyed and every time you drive through some, there's a wake of fucking destruction behind you. But just because one fucking idiot gets lucky doesn't mean that that's the survivable value, right? So no matter what happens, you have to educate. I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, is there any way around getting that education first? Yes, trust your intuition 100%. But if you don't have that education, it's like intuition is fucking powerful. But it's not always, if you don't have something to hang it on, your intuition can be about a lot of different things. I mean, intuition is always right in two ways. One, it's always about something, but it could be the wrong fucking something. And the second thing, it always has your best interest at heart. Those two things are undeniably true about intuition. But even a little bit of training on how to read pre-incident indicators and how to truly understand intent to harm in other human beings, that is fucking massive. Because then it will always be about what you know, like it'll always be about what you're thinking it is, which is aggression or violence. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, the usable power came in
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
came into my
Yeah.
mind, because it's like everybody's like, knowledge is power. It's like, usable knowledge is power, because now you have like what your body is going to intuit, the situation around you, and you know how to interpret that information.
Yes.
So that therefore creates the usable power, because now you have that understanding, right? Control falls more.
100%. And one other thing that I want to put in with this one, right? And I'm just going to read it again because we're going deep in the dialogue. But if there's even the slightest chance someone is looking at you funny, you should go over there and fucking destroy them. The other side is, and there's a couple other statements. I'm tying this in because I'm not sure that we're going to. Well, I know we're not going to get through my whole list here, but also you're fucking yourself legally. If you sit there and go, I had a hunch. Now, hunch is one of the signals the messenger of intuition sends you. Hunch, apprehension, you know what I mean? Just persistent thought, dark humor, fear, anxiety, all of these different things. This is the messenger of intuition. But here's the other point to this shit. If you don't understand how to decode that, at the end of the day, when somebody comes to you and says, why the fuck did you just do what you just did? All you're going to do is go, well, I had a good feeling. The hairs in the back of my neck stood up. Oh, yeah? Well, we'll see you in court. Good luck with that defense. Like, that's not enough. You have to be able to interpret what made the hairs on the back of your neck stood up. What was that apprehension or that persistent thought in the back of your head? What caused that? That's where you'll be able to look and go, look at his behavior, look at the communication patterns, look at his body language. You're gonna be able to find the factual, defensible, like defendable in a court of law, information that then that's how you put this shit all together. Like, that's the depths of the game. Professional versus amateur, right? Why the fuck did you just do what you did? So that becomes another part of this. Okay, let's unless there's something else you want to add on that one, let's move to get a couple more in before we wrap up for tonight, right? So this one will be really, really quick. Brad, you kind of mentioned a bit, but listen, there's going to be plenty of time to get to the hospital so the doctors can patch me up. I ain't worried about that shit. Or I could have said, there'll be plenty of time. I'm not worried about it. The ambulance will get here. That's their job. Let them fucking patch me up if it comes to it.
Some people,
I think again,
get a scratch on them.
Yeah, well. That would tie into this. I don't need who needs a fucking ambulance. I don't need a hospital. I'm not worried about that shit. Nobody's going to touch me.
I think there's obviously very little survivable value in that statement because, number one, in violence, there's a really good chance you are going to be injured in some way because it's violence. It's toxic, corrosive, septic. Like, shit goes wrong. Like, no matter how good you are, shit can go wrong, especially because the deck is stacked against you purposely. So there's way more survivable value, assuming that you could get injured or a family member could get injured or an innocent person that you don't even know could get injured. And again, how much risk do you want to assume? If you have a med kit or anything like that, even part of it on you, well, then you're just more prepared to respond in a time of need. So
okay,
it's kind of a no-brainer.
I love what you're saying, and I totally agree with it. And I just, because right off the bat you said that there's very little survivable value. Like, you're choosing danger if you are not carrying a med kit, right? And we typically go from, there's tools that we keep on us, just like we carry other tools, but they're always on us. There's the ones that we'd have a bit bigger, more deeper supply in the car, and then a bigger, deeper supply at home, in your go bags, all that type of stuff. But when you said that, the second you said that, that is choosing massive amounts of danger, assuming massive amounts of risk. How many people do you know outside of the people that train with us that carry tourniquets, combat gauze, med kit on them all the time, or even have them in their car? How many people do you know?
Nobody.
Exactly. So here's the thing. Very fucking few people do. If anything, they probably have a CPR mouth mask in their car because when they went and took a CPR course, they gave it to them and they fucking threw it in the glove box and haven't thought about it a second time. Now, this isn't everybody, obviously, but this is a massive amount of people. And unfortunately, there's even a lot of guys that I know that are very, very, very skilled guys. I would consider to be pretty switched on guys that don't carry it either. They're heavy dominant on the tools for, defending, protecting, all that type of stuff. but not so much on treating. And that is still protecting. Imagine, let's do this. Imagine you're in a situation and somebody pulls a gun, there's a shooting, and you take that guy out of commission. So check mark in the old fucking, take life to preserve life kind of shit. But the second you turn around, you see that your daughter got hit with a ricochet and you got a bullet through her chest or through her arm or in her leg, or your wife or some other kid, and you don't have a fucking tourniquet. Or you're using your fucking belt, or you're trying to makeshift one out of your t-shirt instead of having that fucking tourniquet that you of all people should be fucking carrying. Like, imagine living with that. Men aren't motivated by, a lot of things, but men are motivated by the fear of regret. The regret to provide and the regret to protect are two things that'll destroy a man real fucking quick. You failed to be the provider you needed to be for your family, and you failed to protect your family. I've seen what that looks like when men fail to be that protector or fail to be that provider, and it's fucking catastrophic. Sorry, someone else is going to chime in there.
No,
I don't think so.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't think I have anything to add because I agree with it 100%. So.
Okay. All right. Here, this might be our last one here, but let's get this one downrange. I think this is a good one. It is absolutely better if my family sticks around when shit's going down. That way my kids can watch me kick the fuck out of some scumbags.
You know what? Like, again,
who doesn't want their kids to see them in action? I mean, that's fucking epic, right? Watch this, honey. Dad's got to go to work.
A couple of things. One, like the terminology has come up a few times. You're just taking on risk, right?
Yeah.
You like the hardest thing to do is to protect other people, right? Yeah. And now let's go back to the first one when there's multiple opponents. What the fuck? Like that? Like no? Like that is just there needs to be part of that the survival strategy that your wife and your family are not fucking popping popcorn and they're getting the fuck out of there. Because like, what if you need to egress over fences or under cars or whatever it is? You ain't hauling your family doing that shit, right? Like we talk about pivoting and stuff too. Like, what if this strategy doesn't work? And you got to implement something else, and that could be just like getting the fuck out of there. How do you do that with your family around? Right? So now you're forced to stay, not only potentially take on more risk for yourself, but also for your family. So yeah,
100%. Yeah, Dustin.
Yeah, well, yeah, 100%. I mean, Brad said it from the tactical standpoint. Yeah, you take on an absolute ton of risk. You touched on it earlier, going back to the med tech side of things. I mean, now you've got how many potential victims instead of any injury you might sustain. But like, okay, yeah, you carry a tourniquet, great. But what if you sustain a bad cut? Your wife sustains a bad cut trying to protect your kids. Well, you've got one tourniquet, so I guess someone might not be going home. You know what I mean? So that's just one small thing. But like, I think Brad covered it well. It's just you're assuming an absolute ton of risk if your family doesn't egress from that situation. And then there's a whole nother conversation about not just egressing, but how can they actually also supercharge what you're doing and provide egress for you and call in, ambulance, all that kind of stuff if needed, yada, yada, right?
Yeah. Okay, I love both you guys' answers. You nailed it. I like it. The last thing, Dustin, you said. So let me just recap. Brad, 100% right. Options. If your family gets the fuck out of there, if your family bugs out in a bad situation, you got to remember, in this situation, the way this is very, very simple, but you got primaries and you got secondaries. The primary is the bullet magnet. The primary is the one that's going to be taking fire and returning fire. And if you're the bullet magnet, right, and that's the analogy of A, might actually be someone shooting at you, or B, it's the incoming fire. They're punching at you, stabbing at you, trying to bottle you, trying to fucking swarm you. Whatever it is they're doing, you're the fucking bullet magnet. You don't want your kids anywhere near you. I don't want my kids anywhere. I don't want my wife anywhere near me, right? So A, because I don't want them caught in the fire. I don't want to send them to I don't want them on the front line of a combat zone. Fuck that shit. Okay. The second part is, like Brad said, it gives you options. You can play dead, you can run, you can move, you can zone, you can engage, you can fucking linear lockdown, you can just do so many different fucking things. So that part was well said. Brad nailed that. At the end, Dustin, you echoed it, and then you added more in this. But the one thing that I just hit real quick is that when you actually have your family trained, okay, they actually, when they understand the roles of a secondary protector, when your wife and your kids understand this, they turbocharge what you're doing. That is huge, and we don't have enough time to unpack all of that. But that's what we do, right? So my thing to this would be very simple. Shit happens so fucking fast that something's happening. There's all of a sudden, it's you and your family having a great time. Bam, there's a threat. And that threat obviously is mutated to a very, very high level very fucking quickly. I mean, as fast as you can blink, you can go from spending time with your family in the happiest mood and day ever, and literally a second later, you're in a life and death altercation, a life and death fight. The family has to know what to do. Because in that moment, if you're trying to move away from your family and separate yourself and there's been no conversations, they won't know what the fuck to do. They're going to go into a state of fucking shock. They're going to be overwhelmed physically, mentally, they're going to have a mental stall. And so therefore you're going to be fucked. So in this, not only do you not want your family there, but the training has to come on the front end. Code word. I mean, there's just so many different things that we put into this. But as fast as it can happen, I have no psychic hindrance because I know that my family is already executing our predetermined tactical, strategical, mission plans. And I know that those are synergizing everything that I'm about to do. It's already unspoken. So it's just such a powerful, powerful thing to have. And again, it's funny, but I know so many guys in so many situations, and they love the fact that it happened in front of their kids. You know what I mean? And the only guys that love that are the guys that it worked out for. I got a couple videos that I show people in my first Bad Guy Blueprints lecture, and one was a guy, that had his young 4-year-old daughter in his arms, and I mean, these guys don't give a fuck if they're beating the dad to death and the daughter's watching it, and that's going to be one of her earliest memories. I don't care if the kid was 10 or 12 years old, watching your one of your parents being beat to death or murdered in front of your eyes is not something you should want for your kids. But again, the ego says, well, I'm not worried about it because I lift weights and I'm big and strong and I'm this and that and I'm a badass and I, whatever the fuck your excuses are, you know what I mean? That's just another part where you have to look at that and recognize, are you choosing danger or are you choosing the survivable value of the situation? And I guess, there's so many more. There's some other good ones I think would be good, but we'll wrap it up here pretty quick. But
part two.
I think, part two. I think that hopefully what people are seeing, the thread out of this, why I kind of wanted to do it this way, is that if you're going to choose the survivable value, if you're going to move further away from danger, it's training. And training takes action. Training isn't something you can talk about. Well, it is. Obviously, we do it every Thursday. But I mean, it's not just words. It's action. It's training. It's you got to do shit. You got to work shit. You got to investigate shit. Like you got to do something. You got to take some action to things. And the second that you start training, like every day somebody comes in, from minute one of their session, for that 60-minute session, from minute one, my whole goal is that 60 minutes later, we've moved them one step closer to safety, where they are now choosing to move towards and find and recognize the survivable value in any and all situations, and therefore they're moving towards that more and more. And every time you train, you just take another step down that path, not just for you but for your family, and that's it. That's the power of this. It's just one little step at a time. Right, so that's hopefully people are picking that up because, like I said, all of these funny things that we were talking about, it's not so funny when you got a guy sitting in front of you that genuinely believes this, and this is the safety net with which he's been living his life, and this is the safety net with which he protects his family, which we all know is a fucking illusion. When he falls, he'll find out real quick that the net was never there. So the emperor's new clothes, right? Thinks he's looking pretty fine, but he's buck-ass fucking naked. Okay, any final thoughts on this, guys, on finding the survivable value?
Yeah, one for me. You said that all these statements we've heard before, and that's fact. And I think that the only way that you could say any one of these statements and believe it, like in the matter of like I want my family to watch me beat some scumbags. Like that side of things is the root of all that. Is you just simply don't own the problem. Because if you own the problem, you can never make that statement. You can never make any one of those statements. That's why it was almost kind of laughable. Some of them are pretty. How you read them were pretty funny too. But like you can't agree with it because if you own the problem, it just doesn't make sense because you understand the root is you own the problem. You can't. So.
Yeah. You got to have a standard. You got to set a standard for what you're training against. That's what sets your perception is the standard. So, owning the problem, right? Dustin, any final thoughts?
Yep. Nope, you guys said it. It's perfect.
Okay, perfect. All right. Okay, well, thank you guys. Listen, Brad, Dustin, thank you guys so much. As usual, appreciate everybody that's watching, listening. Again, we just appreciate you guys so much. Thanks for joining us. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, share. If you have not yet, please make sure that you head to wherever you like to get your favorite podcast, wherever you're listening to this, if you are listening to us. And please make sure that you head over there, leave us a rating, maybe leave a comment if you find value in what we're doing here with the podcast. That is how we reach other good men that are looking to weaponize. We're doing this all organically. It is growing, and it's not about finding, I don't give a fuck about finding all the men in the world. I want to find the right men in the world, right, and help them, become ready, real, resilient, relentless, and ruthless in the face of violence, become the protector for themselves and their families. So I appreciate you guys so much. And we'll be back at it again next Thursday, so please join us there. Also, you can check us out on YouTube and Facebook and follow along, like, comment, share, all that stuff there as well. So that's it, everybody. Thank you so much. Until next time, please stay safe, stay weaponized. Chat again soon, everybody.